Chief. Okay, welcome to the staff that's joined us here this evening in council chambers, because I don't see anybody else, but I do appreciate y'all coming, as well as those viewing us from home. This is a meeting of Poquoson City Council for Monday, May 14th, and I'll call this meeting to order and ask that you please rise, and I'll lead you in the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and for the many blessings we have received in our city. As we move forward this evening on the various issues before us, guide us. And always, as always, we ask for your blessing that it be felt by those in our military, those who serve our public safety in any capacity, and their families that have to keep the home going while they're away. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next item on the agenda is an audience for visitors. Does anybody here want to speak to council on any subject? Okay, if not, I'll close the audience for visitors and ask council for consideration of the minutes. We have 4 sessions here, a regular session, and 2 work sessions, and a special session. Just so nobody thinks we've been doing something crazy, these were all related to SRO type business and applying for the grants. So, anybody prepared to move forward?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve our minutes of the regular session of April 23rd, 2018.
Second.
Is there a second? There was. You just? Okay. No, I got it. Okay, motion made and seconded. We do regular session of April 23rd. Questions or comments? Evie, please.
Councilman Cannella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Excuse me, Councilman Green.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Hucks.
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, and the work session of April 23rd?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve our work session of April 23rd, 2018, the minutes.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. We approve those also. I'm sure there are no comments, so Evie, please.
Certainly. Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Hucks.
Aye.
Councilman Cannella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, and the work session of April 30th.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve our minutes of our work session of April 30th, 2018.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. We do those also. Evie, please.
Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Councilman Cannella.
Aye.
Councilman Hucks.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, and finally, the special session of May 7th.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes of our special session of May the 7th, 2018.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. We approve those, and that'll be the last of the minutes. Evie, please.
Certainly. Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Hucks.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Cannella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried on a vote 6-0.
Okay. First item, next section of the agenda is on public hearings. And first thing that we're going to hear is school board appointments. I believe we're going to read the names of those that we have received. Then we'll open the public hearing to see if there are others who would like to serve. And then we'll move forward with that public hearing. Okay. So the names that you've got currently?
Do you want me to read them, sir?
Yes.
For council's consideration, the names that have been brought forward to appoint To this point, for the Eastern Precinct, Wayne Holcomb. Mr. Holcomb is an incumbent member of the school board. For the Central Precinct, Gregory Deaver and Jonathan Ingram. And for the at-large position, Mr. Gary Carter, who is the incumbent in that position, serving out the balance of an unexpired term, and also Mr. Michael Troutman. During the course of the public hearing, if members of the public would like to introduce their names for consideration or the names of someone else within the community, as well as council members, can place additional names into consideration during the public hearing process.
Okay, very well. So I'll open the public hearing and see if there are other names for somebody would like to present. Okay, I'll close the public hearing, and I don't think there's any action required by council, but I will let the public know that council has made a decision this year to go back and interview through all of these positions. So we will be conducting interviews of both the incumbents and the new ones. So as we move forward, okay. So that's and when do we reappoint? Just for the public's knowledge.
I believe the appointments, the current terms for the folks is through the end of June.
Okay.
So we have plenty of time to do that within the next 2 weeks, and if for some reason that could not be worked out with everyone's schedule, you have until your next meeting in June.
Okay. Very well. Okay, the next item under public hearings is the proposed constrained capital improvements plan for 2019 and beyond 2023. This is an agenda that we have talked extensively about, the comprehensive plan. I don't know if you want to make a brief presentation. If you do, that's fine. What I will tell the citizens is that this is the first time in 25 years that I can remember that we've been able to even consider a capital improvements plan that was realistic. So a lot of great kudos to the staff, to our bond agents, to our school division for feeding that and making it something that we could actually do. So, Randy?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I will be brief. As you will recall, the quest to move towards a constrained capital improvements plan began in earnest with a council retreat on this subject in the month of January. At that time, council provided basically the constraints that it wished to have utilized in the preparation of this planning document. We'll briefly go through the recommended projects. They have gone collectively from the staff through my office to and through the Planning Commission, and was recommended by a vote of 4-1 for your consideration by the Planning Commission. Essentially, members of council, you've received this detailed plan, so I'm not going to read it all to you, but there's just a few things to highlight for the public primarily. The most significant element of the plan is a debt borrowing, which also has financing and tax rate implications in the budget you will be considering later. There are several significant projects, the most significant of which scheduled for funding in the upcoming fiscal year at essentially $17 million is the middle school renovation. Additionally, there is money planned for a portion of one school bus to match a grant that the schools were able to get. The balance of the funding necessary for the replacement of engine 102, a $150,000 down payment on a much larger unfunded, or I shouldn't say a down payment, a continuing payment on a much larger long-term unfunded federal government mandate, and the money to complete the HVAC system replacement project here at City Hall. Those are the significant debt-funded projects in the upcoming fiscal year. One other item to bring to the public's attention, I know the council is aware of this, what you'll see on the bottom of page 1 is, it may be hard to read, Poquoson Avenue Sidewalk Project. This is the money that the council approved approximately October of 2017, which, along with a small amount of matching local funds, will connect the sidewalks from the middle school area all the way up to Shipwreck Island, turn go up Poquoson Avenue, across to Cedar, and essentially put the pedestrian back on public property with at least a grass path to access both the middle school and the high school. So it's a significant project, and for those looking at home, just to show you the other projects that I had referenced, the HVAC system project being most significant in terms of debt funding on this next page. And then you can see the utilities-related projects. Those are all funded with the utility fund existing revenue stream. Council will recall in your guidance, there were some projects we were going to move forward with, and we are in the process of doing that. The balance of the proposed borrowing is a Phase 2 borrowing, approximately a year to a year and a half from now. We will be going through the process of prioritizing potential city projects, and the school board has prioritized their projects, but the way that they have set it up is obviously the middle school is the most important of them. So as they learn more about the actual cost of that project, that may influence what they can do with the balance of that approximately $20 million remaining. With that, we'll be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Council, you have any questions? I think we've studied this, and Randy, appreciate going through that briefly again. All right, this is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing and ask for any comments. Okay, seeing no comments, I'll close the public hearing and ask for consideration by council.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution recommending approval of the constrained capital improvements plan for fiscal year 2019 and beyond fiscal year 2023.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we adopt the constrained capital improvements plan. Any questions or comments of council? Okay, seeing none, Evie, please.
Certainly. Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Hucks.
Aye.
Councilman Cannella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, very well. Next item under public hearings is a proposed ordinance amending the Village Commercial District signage requirements.
That would be me. Let me just do a little surgery here, and we'll be good. Okay. Thank you so much. Sorry about those technical glitches there. Members of the council, vice mayor and mayor, it's good to be here tonight. We are here to talk about village commercial signage. It's a topic that I think is ripe for discussion. Just to get the basic stuff taken care of right up front, this was advertised for the Planning Commission on March 30th, 2018 and April 6th, 2018 in the Daily Press. Advertised for this hearing tonight on April 27th and May 7th, 2018 in the Daily Press. Rationale for changes. Several reasons for this, but I tried to boil it down as succinctly as I could. Number one, provide clarity as related to village commercial signage requirements. Right now, the ordinance as it is, it's very limited, but it is also very confusing to go through. So, eliminate some confusion and provide clear regulations. Streamline and reconcile differences between the current village commercial district language and other cities' sign regulations, specifically Appendix D. You'll notice through the materials that you got that there's a lot of referencing with Appendix D. So we've got those differences reconciled. Allows greater flexibility for developments in the village community zoning district. It allows freestanding signage. Right now, freestanding signage is not even allowed. And it also has a provision for per tenant signage. You can kind of think of it in a way as a shopping center, because the shopping center, every tenant will have a sign and you'll have a main sign for it. And we're going to address signage for residential uses, which was not the case before. Okay, so I'll go through the changes and I'll try to go through these fairly expeditiously. We're going to delete the current A that says freestanding monument signs shall not be allowed in the district. And we're going to replace it with a bigger A. A development project can have one of the following 4 on-site sign types for the purpose of identifying the entire project area. What that means is, take the fountains, for example. You would have one freestanding sign. And there's some other options too, but we're guessing a lot of people may want to take advantage of the freestanding sign. Okay, so freestanding sign. One freestanding sign permitted, again, per unified development area, provided that there's a minimum road frontage of 50 feet. You can't have an additional freestanding sign if there's another public road that abuts that unified development area, and I'll get to the illustration of that here in just a minute. Only one freestanding sign per entrance, however. Setback restrictions contained in Appendix D do not apply to properties within the common unified development. So no setback within it. However, where that development abuts other properties, you'd have to comply with the setback requirements. Where a conditional use permit has been issued for residential development that is separate from commercial, office, or mixed-use structures, additional freestanding signage shall be allowed. Basically, it refers to 3A and C of Appendix D. What it says is that you can have a monument sign that's 8 feet in height, identifying a residential development, but only where one's been approved separate from the commercial aspect of a unified development area. Okay, some unchanged language. There's some other options. If you don't want a freestanding sign, you can still have a wall sign, you can still have a projection sign, you can still have a window sign. So that's pretty much unchanged. The way our ordinance is now, it's kind of strange. It says one sign per development, and when you really get down to it, you're only allowed one of these signs, which really, doesn't really make a lot of sense. Sign requirements, this is where we get into the on-site signs per non-residential tenant. Non-residential, because we've already made allowances for residential. Basically, every tenant in a unified development project area could have a wall sign, a projection sign, or a window sign under various conditions, which are essentially unchanged from what we've got. Sign illumination, all wall projection and window signs still need to be externally illuminated. Freestanding signs can be externally illuminated, internally illuminated backlit, or be electronic message signs. And that is allowed basically to follow up on the city council decision in February to allow them. Color and design, village commercial certainly lends itself to multiple signs as discussed. So there needs to be a unified signing program. In the case of backlit and electronic message signs, the background shall be dark and the lettering light in order that the backlighting penetrate the letters only. And really the school that we've got a sign for is a good example of that. To reduce unnecessary glare, improve readability, and basically give a more pleasing appearance. And this last thing is really just, I'm not sure it really adds anything to what we've already got. It just maybe makes it a little clearer. Specific sign requirements detailed in this section do supersede the requirements in Appendix D. All other sign criteria not specifically outlined is governed by Appendix D. So I think maybe we've said it 2 ways, but that should cover us. Okay, now for the picture part of the presentation. Let me see how this clicker, let's see how this light works. Works somewhat. Village commercial is a rather constrained area of the city. And in fact, really that crosshatched area is part of the area that's in the mixed-use planned unit development that Legacy is working on. So really, and of course that's City Hall and that's professional office park on the corner. So really, you've got Fountains here, and you've got Straight Shot that got a conditional use permit a year and a half, 2 years ago, I guess. So, some of these other properties, Economic Development Authority owns some properties up here, but, so let me try to do just a few examples. This would be the property, Straight Shot Brewery got a conditional use permit for this parcel back here. Under this ordinance, they would be able to have a freestanding sign in this area, and they would also, going to Appendix D here, but I just wanted to make this clear, they would be allowed to have an off-premise sign. And the reason they would be allowed to have an off-premise sign is that they do not directly abut Victory Boulevard or With Creek that's over here. That property is immediately adjacent. It's contiguous to that property, which is another provision. And of course, this property is in the commercial district of Village Commercial. So that would be allowed. Conversely, as has been talked about, maybe they get rid of that property line right there. That all becomes one property, and the sign can be located closer to the corner. And that's really just for visibility concerns. It's kind of a unique property there, in the fact that it's kind of isolated from frontage, but it is directly abutted off a road, obviously, that goes to Victory Boulevard. Okay, so there's the freestanding sign. I've actually got a better thing, even though it might be harder to read. This is the concept development plan these guys did. If you can see the blue box, and I can't see the red dot in order to point it out, but that's where the sign could be. Quite honestly, it could be placed a little bit further down too, but I would think that'd probably be the area that they're looking at. This would be the Fountains development. Fountains Development has a conditional use permit that is good until June 27th, 2019, so they need to get to work on that. But because they have frontage on Alphas, they would have a freestanding sign here. They could have a freestanding sign on With Creek, separate public entrance. And only if residential is built could they have a freestanding monument sign depicting townhomes, which I think is what's been talked about more than anything else. These are just some pictures of the professional office park that you drive by every time you come here. So probably not revealing a whole lot here that you don't already know. But this is an example of a office park that went through the process. They also went through the architectural review board, and obviously the color and the size and the texture of the signs are certainly in keeping with what we're looking for in terms of desirability. This is the Fountains of Poquoson. It's an incomplete development now. We're hoping that there'll be some more development down here and perhaps those townhouses. But that's what you've got right now, and certainly a freestanding sign and some on-tenant signage would probably be a good thing for that development as well. And then this is just an example, and everybody knows this better than I do, being the newcomer, that electronic sign there, which was put up after the first allowance of electronic message signs. The only reason I really show that there, and it doesn't show up good in the sunlight, is that it does have a dark background and it does have lighter colored lettering. So that's the only reason I show that. That's all I got. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Councilman, you have any questions? Go ahead.
Wally, could you give me a definition of and an example of a projection sign?
Yeah, projection sign is a sign that comes out, and I don't remember exactly what we've got here. It's defined,
Do we have
but it
any in
protrudes
town?
out from the building a certain distance, probably not more than 18 inches is typical. Yeah, that's what's meant by that. Really, a sign, a window sign, and a window sign and projection sign are. A window sign doesn't really project, but they're kind of the same thing, really, when you think about it. They can be used similarly.
And any electronic signs would have to adhere to all the limitations that we set forth.
Yes, absolutely.
correct.
And we've got a lot of limitations in Appendix D. Our electronic message sign ordinance is frankly, a lot better than most of the others I've seen. It eliminates the control, the scrolling, and even the changing the messages. I think it's 8-second interval, which is a pretty good interval between messages. So we've got that covered in Appendix D.
All right, so Wally, I guess I've just got one general observation. You
Sure.
can say yes or no. But it appears that what you've written here basically mirrors what the shopping centers that we're more familiar with can do. A Food Lion or a Farm Fresh, whatever they're going to become. It basically has the header sign and then allows you to have the internal signs closer to the building.
That is correct. The only thing I would say in Village Community is I think you're going to see smaller signs than you would in a shopping center.
Okay. So just
But I
wanted to
think
make
that's
sure.
a fair assessment.
So we're basically allowing businesses within Village Commercial to have basically the same things that shopping centers have today. That's what it looks like to me.
Basically, although I would say a shopping center, you have more of the oceanic asphalt kind of look, that's not the intent of Village
And I'm talking about from
Commercial.
a
but yes.
signage perspective.
Understood, yes.
All right. That's the way I take away. So, Randy?
I would note for you, Wally showed the sign package at the end of the street and the existing Village Commercial project. That actually went through a special approval process to get the signage
Yes.
that it now has.
Yes,
It
it
would
did.
not be available under our current ordinance.
Got it.
But it is something that was approved by the community, has been here a long time, and doesn't seem to cause a problem or be the source of any complaints. So this would take us closer to what that actually looks like and what our ordinance would actually allow.
Okay, very good. All right, thanks, Wally.
Right.
All right, this is a public hearing, and I'll open that public hearing to hear if there's anybody that has any comments for council on this subject. Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and ask council for consideration of this.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance by revising Appendix A, Article 11, Section 11-19, Village Commercial Sign Requirements.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we approve the changes to the village commercial sign ordinance. Final comments by council? Seeing none, Evie, please.
Councilwoman Andrews,
Aye.
Councilman Canella,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman,
Aye.
Councilman Hucks,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, very well. Go back to my agenda here and make sure I don't get myself out of order, or my trusty clerk will catch me. All right, we're now finished all the public hearings, and we're moving on to unfinished business. The unfinished business tonight is a second reading and final adoption of the 2018-2019 annual financial plan. Basically, it is a series of at least 4 ordinances here. An ordinance establishing the real estate rate, an ordinance establishing the personal property, watercraft, and privately owned trailers or mobile home tax rates, an ordinance amending the revenue recovery fee, which is changed this year, an ordinance appropriating funds to the various governmental funds, which is basically how we distribute the budget. With that said, Randy, are there any last minute, you have a couple little just clarifications that we came through in the last
Yes, sir.
few work sessions.
Thank you, members of council. You'll see in the cover memo from Ms. O'Connell, the changes that have been made to the document since you saw it last. The first, council will recall with regard to the 1 cent tax increase associated with the recommendations of the School Safety Committee. Because that happened real late in the budget process, we put it as a temporary placeholder in risk management. This 159 in local funding has now moved out of risk management and into the police department, setting up the basis of the funding that allows us to move forward that, along with the 2 grants that you authorized last week to set up for 2 school resource officer positions. You'll see the 2 amounts at $31,292 each, one for the middle school grant, one for the high school grant, and then the the corresponding expenditure increase that comes with that in the police department. There are no other changes to the budget.
Okay, there's one clarification for council as well, and Randy, unless it changed since we talked about 2 days ago, the status of the state budget is,
Still, unless it changed today, and my understanding was the Senate was meeting today, but the House and Senate conference was not meeting yet, so it is still unapproved at the state level.
go ahead.
Mr. Manager, would you go once again, although we've gone over this numerous times, talk about that rescue recovery fee that will not affect our citizens? It's a charge against the insurance.
Sure. The Revenue Recovery Program is an EMS-related program that we have had for approximately 8 years in Poquoson. Essentially, what it allows us to do is to bill the medical insurance companies and also Medicaid for certain EMS-related expenses. If there is a local match that comes with most insurance, including Medicaid, I believe, and we consider the taxes paid by our citizens to be that. So for most citizens, there is no cost at all based on that. We also have you have adopted a compassionate billing program, which basically says for any person whose annual income is less than $100,000, we waive that. If you have more than $100,000 in income, and that's a self-certification, if you did not have health insurance, you might be on the hook. But again, it's a self-certification. We don't ask people to swear an affidavit as to whether or not they are eligible for that program. The only persons that truly may pay under the program normally would be a person that doesn't live here and therefore is not a citizen and therefore pays no taxes, to which that deductible would be applied. If they made more than $100,000 and they didn't have health insurance, their fees could go up. But if they make less than $100,000, they would also qualify for our compassionate billing program. You can't make that specific to people who live here as opposed to anyone else. It's applied to everyone.
Thank you.
I think we all understand it's very hard to explain, but bottom line is it's not a lot of changes. So the reason I asked the question about the state budget is our budget is based on, and the school's budget, I believe, is based on approval of the state's budget. While I don't see a lot of risk, it's sort of unusual for cities to adopt their budget before our state. Counties don't have to necessarily do this, so there is some risk to the budget, but we're under legal obligation by state law to adopt on time. So we're going to proceed on, and we'll take that risk. So with that said, I'll ask council if there is a motion to move forward with this, and we'll take it one ordinance at a time.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance to lay $1.14 levy per $100 of assessed value on all real estate in the city of Poquoson, Virginia, for the general operation of the various departments of the city government.
Second.
Okay, motion made and second. We approve the ordinance establishing $1.14 real estate tax rate. Questions or comments? Seeing none. Evie, please.
Certainly. Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Hux.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Canella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Go ahead, buddy.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance to lay a $4.15 levy on all personal property, a 1/100,000th of a dollar levy on all watercraft, a $1.50 levy on all privately owned camping trailers and motorhomes, and a $1.14 levy on all vehicles without motive power, used or designed to be used as manufactured homes in the city of Poquoson, Virginia, for the general operation of the various departments of the city government.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we approve the ordinance establishing the personal property, watercraft, privately owned camping trailers, and mobile home tax rates. Questions or comments of council? Okay, seeing none, Evie, please.
Certainly. Councilman Canella?
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
No.
Councilman Hucks?
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 5 to 1.
Next ordinance is an ordinance amending the revenue recovery fee. Somebody prepare with a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 38, Article 6, Section 38-158, imposition of fees of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Poquoson, Virginia.
Second.
A motion made and seconded that we approve the revenue recovery fee ordinance. Questions or comments of council? Evie, please.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Hucks?
Aye.
Councilman Canella?
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews? Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6 to 0.
And finally, an ordinance appropriating funds to the various governmental funds. We're distributing the budget.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance to appropriate funds to the various governmental funds of the City of Poquoson, Virginia for fiscal year 2018 and 19.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. We approve the ordinance appropriating those funds. Questions or comments of council? Seeing none, Evie, please.
Councilwoman Andrews?
Aye.
Councilman Canella?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Hucks?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mayor Hunt, the motion carried a vote 6 to 0.
Okay, congratulations and thank you, council. It's been a long budget season, but appreciate your work there. Item 2, under unfinished business, is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Metheny, I don't know if that's right, Fire and Emergency to purchase a 2018 F-550 commercial mini pumper for our fire department. Is there any presentation on this, or are we good?
Mr. Mayor, our fire chief, our battalion chief Breeden as well, our deputy chief, Tanya is here if you have any questions, but this is the fire truck that the council put us on the path to late in 2017, and with your approval of the budget, we now have the second half appropriated, and this will move us forward, and we hope to have the unit by September.
Thank you. Is there a motion to move forward with this resolution?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Metheny Fire and Emergency to purchase a 2018 F-550 commercial mini pumper.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. We approve getting the fire department a small mini pumper. Y'all have anybody small enough to drive that? Few. Okay. All right. All right, with that said, Evie, please.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Hucks?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Canella?
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews?
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6 to 0.
Okay, that's our business agenda. Comments of the city manager.
Mr. Mayor, just two things this evening. One, I just want to echo something you said. I just want to say thanks to Tanya and to Graham and to Evie, all of whom had new roles as it related to our budget process this year. And while it's always a continuous improvement process, I just want to commend them as well as the more seasoned staff that worked with us as well, such as Robin and Jessica and Doreen and the departments, on all their hard work for the budget. It really does take a great deal. The second comment, I've just been asked to extend to you and to the community an invitation to participate in an upcoming Community Appreciation Day that will be hosted at the 7-Eleven in Poquoson, the one with Creek and Hudgens. As you know, we have two. They're doing something this weekend on Saturday the 19th from 11 to 3. Open to the public, no charge, things for the whole family to do, and their rain date, should one be required, is June 2nd. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, very well. Let me see, council directives. So, Councilman Hux, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank City Manager Randy Wheeler and city staff for the successful submission of the grant applications for school resource officers at Poquoson High School and Poquoson Middle School. This was accomplished on Friday, May 11th, and I understand from Mr. Wheeler that they have received confirmation from the Department of Criminal Justice Services that the grant applications have been received. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Green.
Just like to remind everybody that this is one of those odd months where we have 5 Tuesdays, and the food bank is always the 4th Tuesday. So the food bank will be next Tuesday at the Old City Hall. That'll be the 22nd from 10 to 1, and the Kiwanis Club of Poquoson is hosting it this time. So don't get confused, because there's going to be another Tuesday after that when a lot of people show up on the 5th Tuesday, but it is next Tuesday, the 22nd.
Okay, thank you for that. Councilman Canella.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly thank City Manager and his staff for all their hard work in this budget. I know sometimes this council can probably be a little hard to deal with and have a lot of questions. I know I do. So I really appreciate you working with me and, of course, everybody up here. And certainly, thank council. And we think we did a very good thing tonight doing that second bit of funding for that fire truck. So can't wait to see it in an engine bay.
Councilwoman Enders.
Nothing additional.
Mr. Vice Mayor Freeman. Sometimes I forget to say that, so the last name, but Mr. Vice Mayor.
Oh, well, thank you. Councilman Green spoke at the World War I, World War II memorial down at our museum area. I guess it was 2 weeks ago, and that was a really good event. The American Legion raised the flag. Councilman Green spoke, and there were a good number of people there, so I just wanted to mention that. There was a lot of stuff, a lot of activity going on that week, so a lot of good stuff happening in Poquoson.
And I'll echo that. There's a lot of good things going on in Poquoson. I'll tell you, I will remind the public of a couple things. First is, I don't know when back, but maybe a year or so back, this council put forth a petition because we had repetitive offers to convert clamming grounds basically at the end of Hunts Neck Road into commercial fisheries. We have made an appeal to the Commonwealth of Virginia to make it public clamming grounds. There is a public hearing next week, a week from tomorrow, in the city of Newport News. If you would like to come and show your support for those, it's at 2600 Washington Avenue there in Newport News, Virginia, 4th floor, and it starts at 9:30 in the morning. So we're starting to see that come to fruition. I have signed tonight a proclamation, and it's very nicely worded. I will tell you, it talks about things like tragic stories of crime, youth violence, despair, and fear, despair, helplessness. It talks about kindness being the cure to all of that. It is asked for by the United Way and our local community, corporate community. And I would say that everything that this thing contains tonight, you can obtain by going to your local church. I would encourage our citizens to do exactly that. All right. With that said, no comments on the budget. I think we did a good job. I know it is difficult to stomach, but I will tell you this that I feel about the budget. One, Councilman Hux, thank you for leading the ad hoc committee on the SRO. Great job there. Great way to get us really primed up to do it. Randy, appreciate the hard work of staff in getting the grants applied for. I will say that while this does represent a tax increase for the city, it represents a tax increase for the main reason of why we were founded as a city. We were founded as a city in 1975 because we wanted to maintain and control our own school system. $20 million of this is aimed at the school system. SROs to protect the school system are included because of the change in our population and the way that we think these days. With that said, it mirrors exactly what the city was born to support. So we appreciate all the work of the fire department and the police department, and they're represented as well in this budget. So not a lot of new positions, not a lot of fluff, but it is a dramatic increase in what we believe to be our important school, which is Poquoson Middle School today. So we look forward to that in the future and the conclusion of that. So that's all I've got this evening. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Okay, Evie, please.
Councilwoman Andrews,
Aye.
Councilman Canella,
Aye.
Councilman Vice Mayor Freeman, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Councilman Hucks,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Mayor Hunt.
Aye,
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
very well, and we are adjourned.